Welcome to 5 Good Minutes.
You're listening to today's inspirational message on the book of Hebrews
with Kurt Bjorklund.
Hebrews 2 begins something in Hebrews that is notable, and that is it's the first of 5 warning passages. And these are substantial and significant in understanding faith because there's a question behind these warning passages, and that is it possible to fall away from faith? And the reason this is substantial is because that's what these warning passages are about. And many people will quickly answer that question, well, no, it's not possible to fall away from faith because once somebody has been saved, they're always saved. There's perseverance of the saints. And then other people will answer that question, of course. Well, of course, it seems to be obvious that that's what's in view here. And certainly I take the idea that faith is preserved by God, by those with genuine faith, but I think it's a mistake to read these passages by projecting onto them that view. Because the truth of the matter is, we all know people who had faith, apparent faith, and don't have faith today. You have a brother, a sister, a mom, a dad, a child, a friend who for a season had this apparently vibrant faith who doesn't. And here's what we read in Hebrews 2, verses 1 and following. It says, "We must pay the most careful attention, therefore, to what we have heard, so that we do not drift away." Now, again, here is where the question says, is it possible to fall away? And the idea is pay close attention. It's actually a nautical term that means tie up to something solid so that you don't drift out of the harbor, past the barrier. And so they're both kind of a picture of a boat just floating away. And that's a substantial image because it helps us understand that some of how faith ends up being lost is a gradual, unintentional process that happens to some where there's just a lack of careful attention. There's a lack of fervency. There's a lack of really paying attention to what's going on. Then verse 2 says, "For since the message spoken through the angels was binding, and every violation and disobedience received its just punishment, how shall we escape if we ignore such a great salvation?" So here, the comment is basically that the angels have given us this sense of instruction, and every violation or disobedience, every thing that we transgress, which means an overstepping and is kind of speaking probably about somewhat unintentional slights, and then an unwillingness to hear is really this idea of disobedience, receives its just punishment. How will we escape? Saying, if we don't hold to the faith and we just drift away, since the pattern has always been that God deals with it, how will we escape? And then it says, this salvation, which was first announced by the Lord, was confirmed to us by those who heard him. God also testifies to it by signs, wonders, and various miracles, and by gifts of his Holy Spirit distributed according to his will. That God has testified to his ability, and some use this verse to justify kind of the signs movement, charismatic manifestations of God's work today. And that may be in view. It certainly seems that this is speaking about the time of the New Testament. It doesn't mean that it's not possible today, and I would say that we still do see signs and miracles, that every time a life is changed, a marriage is saved, somebody gets off addiction, somebody just becomes a different person, that is a sign and a wonder. Although clearly what's in view here is something bigger that he's talking about. And he's just saying that there has been validation given to say you can believe in salvation because of what the apostles have already done. So, big takeaway today. How are you paying attention to your faith so that you don't become the person who drifts away slowly, unintentionally, almost imperceptibly at first, but over time end up where your boat of faith has just slipped out of the harbor and is in the open sea with no mooring, no stability. What would it look like for you to be paying attention to that faith here today?
Thanks for joining us here today. There's a lot of great content to explore on Orchard Hill Plus and on the Orchard Hill main feed from the weekend. Have a great day.